Hi everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Power Hour today. As you can see, we're not in our usual spot. I'm here with Elan from Sleekgeek.
How's it, guys? How you doing?
Who's also given me this very stylish cap to match my best fitness equipment.
We want to see you represent out there.
Exactly. I've got the bracelet as well.
Good job.
So we're down at Millie Point or 3 Anchor Bay.
Yep, pretty much.
At the fitness equipment that I have been to once. But yeah, we're in situ because today we're talking about healthy body, healthy mind, healthy business, and specifically about Sleekgeek and your revolution that you've started.
Awesome.
Cool, I'm very happy to have you. I think as a start, if you want to just tell us a bit about you and your journey to starting Sleekgeek.
Okay, well, you know, Sleekgeek was actually an accident. I was a corporate workaholic / slave for about 12 years.
Yeah.
And in that time, for most of my adult working life, I was literally chain smoking. I was a workaholic. I was living on junk food. I was doing no activity whatsoever. And my only focus was on my job and career progression.
Yeah.
And essentially I was living a very unbalanced life. And you know, I was that guy who would send you an email at 2 in the morning saying, where's the status update on this project?
Yeah.
You know, and the funny thing is, in corporate life, that was kind of applauded.
Absolutely.
That's how you got ahead. You know, you were the man.
Yeah.
And then now I've realized that it wasn't that cool. But so essentially my journey was, I had a very unbalanced life. I was unhappy with life. I was overweight. I didn't like the way that I looked. I didn't like the way that I felt. And at age 35, I decided I have to do something about this. I have to make some change because, you know, I got to the point where I was an executive in a listed company. You know, in terms of my own career, I was general manager at News 24 for a few years. And then I was the group head of digital at Avusa, which is Times Media, iNet Bridge, Career Junction, all of those brands. And so, you know, I had some serious responsibility.
Had a lot going on, even at 2 in the morning.
Had a lot going on, but, you know, I wasn't taking care of myself. And, you know, I was paid to think strategically. And essentially what I did was, you know, when you think strategically, you take all of your assumptions and what you know and you project forward into the future.
Yeah.
You know, and there's an expression that says, you know, do something that your future self will thank you for.
Yeah.
So I looked at this progression of my life and, you know, with diabetes in my family, with, you know, lung cancer in my family, having had experiences of impotence in my life, which is not fun. Essentially I was like, shit, you know, I'm 35.
Yeah.
If I go on this trajectory, you know, what is 40 going to look like? What is 45? Life is going to look pretty grim.
Yeah.
And I was like, stop, hold the bus. And I'm a competitive person. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I challenged a few of my friends on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because in those days, like, Twitter was still cool. There were just a handful of us on there. And I said, guys, we're doing a weight loss challenge. We're all putting 500 Rand in the kitty.
Cool.
And we got some buff friend of ours to choose the winner. I didn't win, but I lost 8 or 9 kilograms in that.
Just put your photos up?
Yeah, well, yeah, we took photos, measurements, whatever. And then that was how Sleekgeek started. And I wanted us to share knowledge because none of us knew anything about exercise or nutrition. So I wanted us to share. And so I created a Facebook group.
Okay.
And, you know, in those days, there weren't many Facebook groups. Now they're much more, you know, ubiquitous.
Yeah. And
I just clicked on Facebook group. I thought it was a good place for us to chat. And I had to call it something. At the time, I identified with being a geek, although I'm not really a geek, pseudo geek. And, you know, there was Geek Retreat at that time. There was Geek this, Geek that. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm a geek who wants to be sleek. I called it Sleekgeek.
Love it.
And yeah, I mean, then all of a sudden, people started inviting their friends. They were like, we have to do another challenge.
Awesome.
And it just organically grew to the point that a year later, we had 600 members. Now, 600 members doesn't sound like much,
Yeah.
but it was very intense and engaged.
Yeah.
So it felt like a big community. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And so now I was an executive in a listed company. I wasn't focused on my
Doing this
job.
side hustle.
I was more excited about helping people. And I suddenly realized that life is better when you're healthy.
Yeah.
And so now that's my mission and my vision. You know, I've got Inspire tattooed on my arm, and that's just to remind me to inspire people.
Amazing.
Like, I decided my life's work there and then was going to be to inspire people to live a healthier life.
That's awesome.
Because I believe that you're better at everything when you're healthy.
Definitely. And actually, something when you're talking about kind of the 2 a.m. emails and being on this corporate, like chasing this carrot, that there's always a next carrot, and that's something I can relate to myself, and is very much a mentality I experienced back in Australia and Sydney in consulting. And then when I came to Cape Town, I was like, wow, the whole world is not like this. Like, it's actually not applauded. People now, if you say I work till 11 p.m, they're like, why can't you do your job effectively?
Yeah.
That's what I've encountered here anyway. So how did you break that mindset? How did you move out of the space? Was it community or the trigger? Or?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of breaking that mindset, I think it was about congruence.
Okay.
So I suddenly realized, hang on a second, there is absolute merit to being balanced.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what do you want to do? You want to win. But I started to redefine.
Someone being arrested.
And just another day in South Africa,
Well, okay.
So I just decided, okay, I redefined what success looked like to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I look at old Elan, I was earning really well. I was driving fancy cars, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But the whole picture of my life, I didn't feel successful.
Okay.
The whole time I had this idea of what success was, and I thought it was climbing the corporate ladder. When I got to the top, I was like, geez, I don't even want to be here. It's not that cool.
Yeah.
So I redefined what success was for me, and I have a definition. Like now, it's about quality time, it's about having leisure time, whatever it is. So I earn a lot less money, but I'm much happier.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. The second thing was to realize if I was going to be the leader of a health community,
Yeah.
I need to practice what I preach.
Absolutely.
I need to be congruent.
Well, people like authenticity, otherwise.
Exactly. I can't be talking about health all day and then, be living an unhealthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's absolutely possible because, yes, you do get your Gary Vaynerchuk's, your Gary V's, you get your Dr. DeMartinis, who will basically say that, you should work yourself to death because you love it so much.
Yeah.
And that's the way to win.
Work smarter, harder, faster.
That's the one model, the hustle
Yeah.
model. But, the other model is if you look at someone like Ariana Huffington. She's an extremely successful businesswoman. Huffington Post, it's a sensational story. She had a breakdown. She fell down on the floor, and she's now written a book. I think it's actually called Sleep or something like that.
Amazing.
But her whole thing at the moment is she's on this global mission to teach people to have balance.
Okay.
Because people are walking around zombified, strung up on caffeine and other kinds of, energy drinks and other kinds of crutches,
Yeah.
with absolute adrenal fatigue, living a life that we weren't designed to live. As human beings, we weren't designed to be on our computer at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
We're fairly adaptable, but at some point the rubber's going to hit
Absolutely.
the road.
And so bringing it back to Sleekgeek, and obviously, healthy body, healthy mind, and fitness, it's a massive area to tackle. So what is it that Sleekgeek is focused on? What is the problem that you're solving?
Okay, so what I realized on my journey is that most people who want to embark on a healthy journey, are alone. Okay, so they find themselves not supported by their colleagues, their friends, even their partners in the home or their family.
Yeah.
And it can be very, hard for them to succeed in that kind of environment.
Because it's antisocial sometimes.
They're not. I've had people who've been told that we've had a lady who lost 60 kilograms, went from being very overweight to almost bikini model ready, and got told by her friends, "You're no fun anymore."
Gosh.
Because people sometimes socialize around alcohol and food.
Exactly.
Rather than like healthy activities. Now, I don't really believe it should be polarized to one or the other. I think you've got to have some balance in your life.
Yeah.
I think extremes on any side are not healthy.
Sometimes on a Friday you just need a gin and tonic. So.
Hey, listen, I'll eat my body weight sushi on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Salmon roses, I'll eat them all. But the point is that people start to feel isolated. Because when you're in an office environment, for example, and everyone is sitting with their Russian and chips from the canteen or their takeaways, their KFC, and you pull out your smelly tuna and broccoli, everyone's like, who is this freak? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to have tuna and broccoli to be healthy. But the point is that essentially we live in a society where the norm is to be unhealthy.
Absolutely.
The exception is to be healthy. We label people who are trying to be healthy health freaks.
Yeah.
Isn't that like a little bit crazy?
Well, Sleekgeek is so much better.
Exactly. So what we do is we create a safe environment.
Yeah.
And that's been a very important thing for me. Like our group culture our code is respect, uplift, inspire, because this is a very, particularly we have female dominated community, 95% female. It's a very emotional, sensitive topic.
Absolutely.
Like people are very sensitive about their weight and body image.
You're vulnerable. You're putting, you know, pictures out there, potentially no one's seen you like that ever, and
exactly.
thousands of people.
Exactly. You're dealing with people who have low self-esteem, they don't have the confidence, so they need an environment where they can talk openly about these things without feeling judged.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we focus on a lot.
Okay.
You know, if anyone out there is building a community, then, you know, you've got to be really mindful of the culture that you want to set.
Absolutely.
Because the internet can be a horrible place.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as a guideline for any community, if you can foster a culture of respect, like healthy debate, great, but like respect for other people, I think is like a cornerstone of a good community.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can understand. And so,
oh, sorry.
my community. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, you
no,
go.
No, I'm saying the problem that we solved was people were alone.
Yeah.
Then the other thing, just to follow the thought before we move on, is that there is so much complexity and misinformation around health.
Yeah.
And so many consumers don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
They get told banting this, then they get told that, and then
don't eat sugar, don't eat fat.
Don't eat this. This is bad for you now. This is bad for you.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. Where the simple basics that have always applied, that are science-based, actually do work.
Yeah.
You know, people who don't even eat enough vegetables want to look at complex strategies. They want to talk about intermittent fasting, and then they want to know if they should eat something before or after they train when they're not even eating enough vegetables.
Yeah.
They're not even enough protein. So we try and give people the basics that work without all the noise.
Amazing.
You know, that's our goal, is to give them real information that works and how to apply it.
And you have 250,000 in your community now?
Well, we've got a Xhosa speaking community of about 160,000 members.
Wow.
Where the whole day everyone's speaking in Xhosa. And then we've got an English speaking community across those platforms, our newsletters, Instagram, everything else. Yeah, it amounts to about at least 250,000 people that we talk to.
Well, amazing. So you're obviously creating a culture and a movement that people resonate with and want to
I hardly spend a cent on marketing.
Awesome.
You know,
well, we should
so
talk after this. But what I just wanted to bring it back to is obviously a lot of the watchers of this are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And actually this month, my community, Future Females, has all been focused on self-care and balance. And that community is
love that.
Yeah.
I love that topic.
It's a lot of entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah.
And so what I've experienced personally, but also with my clients, is health and fitness is often the first thing to go when you're...
Or the last thing on the priority list.
Absolutely. And so you'll just go days and gradually you'll have, you know, the momentum has gone.
Yeah.
And so can you talk to me a bit about kind of how the healthy body and healthy mind translates through to a healthy business? And if you are letting it slip, what can you do to reprioritize?
Sure. Okay. So just to try and touch on all those points. First of all, like one message that I'm really passionate about, and my community will hear me say this a lot, because, you know, our community is about 95% female.
Yep.
And lots of young mothers. Yep. So people typically, it'll be a lot of your audience, people who, you know, they're trying to grow a business, or they're employed and they have a kid, and then they're having to like look after their husband as well.
Everything.
And then there's no time for themselves.
Yeah.
And so what we find is, you know, there's that expression, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So what we find is people are coming from a weak position, trying to help everyone in their lives, trying to serve their families, serve their jobs, serve their relationships, but they are coming from a position where they're just frazzled.
Yeah.
You know, their life experience right now is this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, which is not how it's meant to be. So the point is, you know, they've got to take a deep breath, take a step back, and you've got to realize that one of the most selfless things you can do is sometimes to be selfish. You've got to find the time to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And that is taking time for yourself to do things that you love. It doesn't have to necessarily be going to the gym. It could be going for a massage or yoga, or even just taking time to go and read something that interests you. But you've got to nourish yourself.
Yeah.
And whatever that's going to be, health's a great way to do that, to de-stress. So that's the first thing I'd say is, if that's you, the person that I've just described, you've got to set boundaries.
Okay.
You've got to find time to invest in yourself. Now, the why would I do that? Because I've definitely found, and I've seen over 6 years of observing people in my community, that you are definitely more effective and more efficient and more focused when you're well rested and you have energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense, but when you're right stuck in the middle of it, it's hard to...
Well, exactly. It feels like you're in the middle of a car crash.
Exactly.
And you know, it is hard to, but at the end of the day, life will be much more meaningful. I found in my personal experience that a lot of people who in that situation probably manage their time badly or poorly.
Yeah.
They probably say yes to too much.
Yeah.
And they're not making the best use of their time.
No, I can relate to that, and this is a story I've told you before, but I went to see a life coach and it was amazing, but I was operating so quickly and I was just chasing this imaginary goal in my own business. And she was like, what would you be willing, let's say you're operating at 100%, what would you be willing to go down to have the balance back in your life and recoup yourself and kind of deal with the other issues that you're facing, like identity and whatever it is, you know? And I said 95%. And she was like, do you know 95% actually means you can take an hour a day for yourself out of your business? And I was like, wow, hadn't thought of it at all like that. Like, it's only 5%, 1 hour. Everyone can make that time. Or 2% would be half an hour.
Sure.
So I guess it's just finding what's right for you.
I'm going to challenge you to take 80%. This
sure,
year.
sold.
So the thing is this, like, you know, if you've got a bucket of water, and, you know, we give you a bucket, you're going to fill it up. If I give you a bigger bucket, you're also going to fill it up. And I think that's what people do with their time.
Absolutely.
Is, you know, when I was a corporate workaholic, even though I was very successful in my career, I'll admit that I had a problem with procrastination. And I think most people have got a problem with procrastination.
Sure.
They don't focus. They spend too much time on social media. You know, it's an irony because my business is built in social media, but I at least feel that them spending time in Sleekgeek is fairly beneficial to them. But you shouldn't people spend so much time wasting time and then complain that they have no time. So now, in terms of creating a healthy lifestyle, you need time because one, you've got to go and exercise. Two, you've got to prep food, cook for yourself, and you've got to carve out some time for yourself.
Absolutely.
But by the same token, I don't believe in an all or nothing mindset. If all you have is 20 minutes, find a 20-minute workout. There's a million of them on the internet. Get up in the morning. I mean, Robin Sharma, in his morning ritual, he says the first thing you do for the first 20 minutes is do some exercise.
Okay.
So if you don't have 2 hours or an hour or whatever to get to the gym, find a home workout, do 20 minutes.
And so,
you know,
sorry to
do something. It's better than nothing.
Absolutely. And so while we're kind of thinking about routines and morning routines, can you share a little bit about what your day looks like? Because obviously you're running a massive movement, which is also a business. You're making time for your health and mental wellness and fitness. How are you fitting this all in?
That's a great question. And sometimes I used to be conflicted with it, but I'm not conflicted with it anymore. Because when I left corporate, I think I was a bit burnt out. And I said to myself, you know what? If I'm going to build this business, I have to do it in work hours. So I made a rule that I set boundaries. I don't work after hours. I don't work weekends. So I've got that much time to change the world, you know, and I got to make that work, and it's made me so much more efficient, systems orientated. I say no to things that are superfluous, and I do the best that I can do in that time. And essentially, sorry, what is the question?
Your daily routine.
My daily routine. Okay, so in terms of how I pack that all in, I like to start early.
Okay.
I believe in, like, the, you know, Robin Sharma's got the 5 a.m. club. So I either start at 5 or 6. I think those hours in the morning are like gold.
Okay.
You know, look, I mean, if you've got kids or whatever, you might be doing other things in that time.
I've never seen that gold. I need to.
but for me, that's where I do a lot of my deep work.
Okay.
And, you know, before the world wakes up, before you get the distractions of email and all these kind of things and people wanting things from you. So what I do is I wake up in the morning. The first thing I do is I just weigh myself to keep it real. Then basically I'll go and I'll take my supplements for the day, and it's nothing special at all. It's just some fish oil, which is good for inflammation, some probiotics just for gut health, and some vitamin D, because, you know, we don't get enough vitamin D.
Except for today, when we've got a lot of vitamin D.
Well, you know, the thing is people think that, but, you know, you've got to have quite a big part of your body exposed. Like, you literally have to be standing with your shirt off like this for half an hour.
These guys are fine, but we're not.
Yeah, and also, you know, UV, you know, if through a window, through glass, whatever, it actually blocks it. So most people are vitamin D deficient anyway. But if you are going to do that, you should get blood tests, because vitamin D is one of the vitamins that's not soluble, so you can have too much vitamin D. But anyway, that's like another video. That's another video.
Okay.
But so I get my supplements in, then I go, I put the kettle on, I make my coffee, I go stand at the window, because I live here on the beachfront. I'm very lucky.
Trying to get a scan of our current situation.
Right on the beachfront, and, you know, I like open the window and I look at the waves, and basically I just consider what I'm grateful for.
Okay, amazing.
Like, one thing that I've found in this journey is that having an attitude of gratitude and a positive headspace it's so key to your health.
Absolutely.
You know, health is not just about nutrition and exercise at all. It's about your relationships. It's about how you feel about yourself, your relationship to the world, others.
Definitely.
So I try and connect with gratitude, because I really believe that, you know, when you're in a state of gratitude, it's hard to be in a bad mood.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to have fear.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it could be for anything small, you know, just for the cup of coffee, or it could be just for some deep, meaningful relationship you have, like all across the spectrum. So I try and focus on that for a bit. Then I'll go and I'll sit down and I'll make a short list of what are the key things I want to tackle that day.
Yeah.
Don't always get them done, but I try to just focus my energy on what am I going to do today. And then I get into it, and then once I've done 2 to 3 hours of good work, I'll go live on my community and do a 20-minute live video.
Perfect.
It's not always sensational, but I like to just be in the habit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we teach habit-based health, and it's about, if you want to write a book, write 2 pages a day.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to, so in terms of goal setting for health and fitness, rather than saying my goal is to lose 10 kilograms, make your goal to show up at the gym 3 times this week.
Yeah.
Make your goal to take a packed lunch to work every day. The behaviors.
No,
cool. So the behaviors rather than the outcomes.
And that reminds me of one of your blogs that I read recently, which is essentially you're saying that it's not about motivation, it's actually about commitment.
Yes, I hate motivation.
Okay, can you talk a bit about
I'm like the motivation antichrist.
Amazing, I love it, it's fresh.
The reason why is because people sit around waiting for motivation. It's like that book, Waiting for Godot, I did when I was in school like 100 years ago. And the thing is that motivation is something that comes and goes.
Yeah.
It's a passing emotion, and I think that if you think that you're only going to do something when you're motivated, that's insanity.
Yeah.
Because, for example, if you're in a job and you thought, I'm only going to work when I'm motivated, you probably would lose your job.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, well, I don't feel like going to that meeting right now. I don't feel motivated to go.
Yeah.
You made a commitment. You've got to do. So basically, I find even like athletes aren't motivated to wake up at 5 on a Monday morning and go train necessarily. Sure. Essentially what they've done is they've put it in their diary, they've made a commitment as non-negotiable. Okay. I think what you got to do is you got to take the negotiation out of your life. Particularly when you're working for yourself, because there's no one holding you to account. You got to take the negotiation out of your life. Yeah. So, you know, what I found, like back in my fat days, I had 1 or 2 little flirtations.
Is that what we call them, the fat days? And they're over there.
Whatever, I had 1 or 2 flirtations with going to the gym,
okay,
you know, for brief periods in my life. And I remember I used to try and go after work, but like every day there was this dialogue, you know, oh, these guys want to go for after work drinks.
Yeah.
Do I go for drinks with them? Oh, it's been a hard day. Or do I go to the gym? It was always a negotiation.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I've just found that, like, you know, with Steve Jobs, for example, he always wore that one outfit because apparently it was one less decision for him to make. I think you've got to take the negotiation out of it. You've got to say it's in my diary. You've got to make that commitment. You know, Robin Sharma, who I mention a lot because I love him, he's got this thing where he says, show me your schedule and I'll show you your priorities. You know, you can talk about what's your priorities, but what are your actions? What are you really spending your time show on? Me your schedule. You know, if you say your family is your priority, where are they? You know, that's great. That's a good exercise to do, I guess. If you don't know where to start and you too much on your plate, just take a look back at your last calendar for the last few weeks and see where your time is really going. You got to make it realistic. You know, like one other thing we teach is setting yourself up for failure is thinking you have to be perfect. Yeah. The typical person thinks, oh, I've got to be perfect. If I can't be perfect, I suck at this. Yeah. Okay. No, like we're looking for progress. Even if you go to gym once a week for the first month, and then twice a week, set realistic expectations, make the commitment and make it non-negotiable. Like no matter how you feel, you have to go. Like that's just the way it is. Absolutely. And so forget about motivation. You're telling me another story about a guy, maybe it's Robin Sharma, puts his shoes on in the morning and he's like, if I don't reach the second goal. That's Bruce Fordyce. Yeah. So for our younger viewers, Bruce Fordyce was one of our Comrades Marathon champions who won like, you know, years after years after years. And he has this story where he basically said that he could get out of bed in the morning, he'd put on his shoes, he made this commitment to himself, and he said to himself, if by the second lamppost I'm not feeling it, I can go back to bed. Yeah. Now, do you think he ever went back to bed? Exactly. And it's the same. Like, I mean, even me, I sit on my couch, like, in the afternoon, because I go to the gym in the afternoon after work. And sometimes I've sat there thinking, you know, and like, it'll take me half an hour to get up and go. Exactly. But once you go, you never regret it. Definitely. Even if it wasn't your best workout ever, you're always grateful that you did it. Around at the second lamppost. You're always grateful that you did it. And same with food prep. You know, I really believe one of the biggest keys to being healthy is to prepare as much of your own food as possible. Okay. So now, because your viewers are entrepreneurs and they can't cook every night, like what I do is I bulk prep all of my food. Okay. So I'll cook 2 weeks worth of protein in one go. Take me an hour. In an hour, I've got 2 weeks worth of protein.
And then the negotiation is out.
And then I freeze it. And then I freeze. You can put it in the fridge for 3 days, and the rest I freeze, and I take it out, and then I make my vegetables fresh. I steam them.
Amazing.
And you know, it's taken the complexity out of my life.
And so there's a lot of obviously information out there, and maybe misinformation around these sorts of topics, diet and fitness in particular. How do you know what to trust and what to try, and which fad to jump on, if any?
Okay, I think that's a complex question, but if I would give you a rule of thumb, the first thing I would say to anyone who's embarking on a healthy lifestyle change is if someone gives you a plan, or you find a plan, or you find a strategy, you got to ask yourself, is this something I can picture myself doing for life? Okay? If you find something that seems like you never, like, I mean, if you get some highfalutin eating plan, like, can you really picture yourself doing that for the rest of your life? You know, we live a social life. You know, we've got to go out. There's social engagements. You've got to know what to do in those situations. You need to learn skills. You know, you don't need to just follow a plan like a monkey. So
lemon detox diet, not sustainable.
Well, that's the geek and Sleekgeek.
Okay.
You know, like, you know, we teach people to try and become self-reliant. And try and become critical thinkers. Like, if you really want to succeed in health, you've got to develop an interest in it. Like, you've got to ask questions. You know, you've got to be prepared to research things.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't just outsource it to someone. You know.
Definitely. And so obviously there's physical fitness, but then there's also mental fitness.
Absolutely.
Which, as an entrepreneur, is so important. Learning how to deal with your failures, particularly when you are by yourself. And it's something like, I reckon I've had quite a steep learning curve of over the past 12 months. But when you are starting out, it can take quite a small trigger to almost cripple you into this puddle of self-pity on the floor. This is the insight into my world. Do you have any tips on how to build your mental fitness?
Yeah, okay. That is an interesting question. First of all, I mean, I'll start by saying that I think that mindset is a critical component of health. Absolutely. And obviously also of entrepreneurship, because I think that what you need to do is you need to build resilience. So what I realized in my career is that even when things go wrong, nobody really dies. And we all kind of like survive.
And actually very few people even care, except for you.
Exactly. And you know, I mean, like, we are, you know, most people who are entrepreneurs or whatever, we are part of a privileged part of society where, like, what's the worst that can really happen? So what I'll do is I'll always start with, and actually it's Tim Ferriss who in one of his books has this thing called fear setting, where basically you note down, like, what are you so scared of, and then you note down in the other column what is the absolute worst thing that could happen.
Okay, that's cool.
You know, and then in the next column you can maybe like have strategies to mitigate that. And when you realize that no one's going to die, you know, it's just about taking a deep breath, relaxing, and solving the problem. So what I found is useful there is you have to realize that there's always going to be more work.
Absolutely.
There's always going to be more to do, and you've got to like focus on the things that really matter. And often the things that you think matter so much don't. The opportunity that you thought was going to change your life, there's more opportunities that come along.
Absolutely.
You know, nobody likes to say no to anything. You know, so essentially that's one tool. The other tool is really just, I think it's just experience in the trenches. You know, the more you can build your resilience, the better you're going to get. And I mean, I think it's really just spending time in the game.
And I think you're right, it is about getting that perspective, and sometimes you can't actually have that perspective until one of your worsts has happened and you realize you're fine after it. And then the next time you come into it, you're like, well, it was fine last time.
Another quick tip, which is also a life lesson, which you can apply to anything, is really with business, try and take the emotion out of it. So I found, you know, like, I wasn't a corporate sociopath, but I found that, well, I was partially. They did bring me in to like get rid of people, but anyway. But the point is that you need to take the emotion out of it. Like, you need to always be looking at the facts. You know, you got to take a step back and you got to say, okay, what's really happening here? Take the emotion out, calm down, and then figure out what are the next steps. And that's also with your health stuff. Like, it's always going to be, what's the next step?
Absolutely.
Because only when you know the next step can you take action. Because people are sometimes confused by motion and versus action.
Sometimes. It's like
often. So I'll give you a quick example. What motion is spending 2 weeks trying to figure out the right eating plan. doing all the research, whatever. Action is eating a healthy meal.
Yeah.
So a lot of people spend too much of their time in motion.
Absolutely.
And not enough time in action.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, the endless planners who just need to take the first step. Cool. So if our listeners want to get involved in Sleekgeek, how can they do that? How do they join the community, and what are you've got a couple of plans people can join as well?
Yeah, look, I mean, 99% of what we offer is free. We've got a model where I want everyone to have access to information.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is just join the community. Just go to Facebook, Sleekgeek Health Revolution, join the group. Or if you just visit our website, sleekgeek.co.za, there you can find lots of free nutrition guides, lots of inspirational stories, and you know, we tell the stories of people so that we can make it relatable.
Great.
You know, and so that's just the easiest way. Get in, join the community, get involved, get engaged with your health, and start to value your health. Because I really believe, honestly, if you want to be better at your job, if you want to be better at your relationships, if you want to be better at any aspect of your life, you have to work on your health, because people only value it when they lose it.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people are lucky enough they have a scare that is not, that they're lucky enough that it's just a scare. Some people are not that lucky. You know, you take someone like, I mean, look at Jos van der Westhuizen, you look at Michael Schumacher. You know what, you can have everything going for you, you can have all the money in the world, but when you don't have your health's your wealth.
Exactly.
Now in those two situations, those guys, that was just dumb luck. Nothing they could do to prevent it. But in 90% of the situations where people lose their health, it was absolutely preventable. You know, and so yes, you know, you might be one of those percentage of people who, you know, you hear about the healthy guy who died in a swimming pool from a heart attack, or you know, my uncle who's been smoking and he reached the age of 100. But you know, those are the outliers. For the general population, you can definitely try and future-proof yourself by having some balance, being healthy, and enjoying life more. You know,
I think that's what it's all about. It's about fun. And there's this thing, I talk about it often, called the entrepreneur dilemma, where you leave a job because you think you're going to have more time, more freedom, more money. Then a year down the road you realize you have absolutely none of those things, and it's just not fun anymore. And so I like to challenge myself, like weekly or even daily, like, am I actually enjoying what I'm doing? And if I'm not, then I need to figure out a way to stop doing it. Absolutely,
absolutely. And I think, you know, what you've hit on there is, if you said to me, you know, I would say, you know, are you happy? But you know, happy is quite a weird concept, you know, everyone's got a different, so for me what happiness is, and it's different for everyone, is like, are you at peace? You know, like, even if you are a workaholic, even if you are working till 3 in the morning, that's fine if you're at peace.
Exactly.
You know, if you feel frazzled and you feel, because your body's intelligent, like it knows when you are under duress. It knows when you're not happy, you know, and essentially, like, are you at peace?
I like that. That's a good way of thinking about it. And so what's next for you? So your goal is to have 1 million healthier South Africans.
That's the goal. A million is the goal.
Okay,
I hope to see that in my lifetime.
What's next? What's the next step for you?
Sure. You know what? Like, one of my frustrations, and I'm sure a lot of your people will feel this too, is I'm struggling to figure out how to scale this business. Like, in a responsible way. Because obviously, you know, you don't want to scale something in a way where you lose the message and you lose the meaning and the value, but essentially I don't want to scale it from a financial perspective. It would be nice, it's, you know, I'm not Mother Teresa, but but I want to scale it because we want to help more people. So it's frustrating me right now that I feel like I have the information, I feel like I have the tools to help more people, but I don't know how to get to them. And that is really frustrating me.
Well, like, maybe this is something we can help with. And everyone tuned in, if you like any of what you
If anyone's got any ideas, I just want to help more people.
Amazing.
Like,
well, that's such a nice message, and I'm definitely behind the movement. And could do with a little bit more time focused on health and fitness every day, as I'm sure most people can. So thank you for coming down and meeting me in such a beautiful spot.
It was an absolute pleasure.
I'm very happy to be here. And thank you everyone for tuning in to Power Hour. I hope you've had the takeaways that I have. And don't
have too many takeaways though.
I've got a list of 10 things to achieve today.
No, I mean takeaways.
Oh.
bad corny joke.
Oh, okay. Nice. We needed a dad joke right at the end. Thank you everyone. Look out on Monday when I tell you who our next guest is. Thanks.
Cheers.